Hey guys, welcome back. If you're new here, please hit that subscribe button. On the screen, I have the game will be building. What you're essentially going to do is you need to collect all the green things and then return to your starting position. You are the red thing, and the orange or pink color is the tiles, and the green thing is the food. So you need to collect all the food and return to your position before you finish all your moves. So if you finish all your moves before you actually return to your position, you lose the game. So here's a bit of demonstration, and you can only use the up, down, left, right arrows to play the game. So I'm gonna collect, and you can see as I collect, my score increases, the moves and the food remaining decreases, right? Let me collect. Let me show you how I'm going to win. So now it says I've won the game because I've collected all the food and I managed to go back to my starting position while I still have moves. So let me lose the game. I can collect all the food. And if I collect all the food but fail to return to my starting position, and as you can also see, the more you make moves, the more your score decreases. So I want to lose the game. Yes, I've lost the game now because I haven't returned to my starting position and I no longer have any moves. Right, so yeah, that's basically the game, and I hope you're gonna enjoy it. Now let's go into VS Code and start working on this. Let's start with our project and create the files we're gonna need: index, HTML, oh no, edit the file, main CSS, and finally the app.js, right? Start with HTML and create our document. We're gonna call it at game, yeah, ted game, whatever. And here I'm gonna link our script, which is our JavaScript file or code. And also here I need to link my sheet, which is my CSS main. Why does side the main.css? Close this. Here I'm gonna have a container on container, and then inside this container I'm gonna have a div called game with the id game here. So this is what we have. However, most of this stuff here we're gonna render them using the JavaScript, but then now we just want to build the UI, right? So we're gonna have 8 rows and 8 columns. So I'm gonna have a div here. Okay, let me call it, because remember we have food that the player is gonna have to collect, right? 1 2, and then after we break this, so I need to copy down this line by going down 7 times, right? We already have the first one here, so 1 2 3 4 5 8. So we have this, and I can run this with my server. Oh no, wait, open. No, do this. And of course you can't see the divs because they don't have any sort of like any color. So I can come in here and say food with, let me give it 50 pixels, same as height, and background color of, there they are. And what else do I need to do? Maybe let's say display inline block. Boom. So I can take the whole thing, this whole thing, and try to put it at the center of the screen, right? So we have a container that I can use to say display flex and align item center and justify content center. Okay, so you cannot really see. Let me say hide this. Okay, there it is. We have our game. This is how our game's gonna look like. So we have food. So we're gonna have the game will have food that you need to collect as a player, and you're gonna have a player, and you're also gonna have like tiles or the road. Like this is just nothing. This is what you can walk on, right? So the player, damn it, player, uh I'm gonna call it the tile, also the food will actually share the same styling beside background color. So except the background color, so I'm gonna do this, and the player in color, we're gonna maybe have what, let me try something red, and I can go here and say here we have a player. And if I come here, you see this is the player. Food, and what else? We have the tile. The tile could be what? Tile color. Which color can you go with? Random. And obviously you cannot see it. Let me just say tile here. Not title, but tile. Okay, this is the tile, and then the orange or this kind of the coral will be the food, and actually the food has to be green. Food has to be green. Yes. Then maybe this can be something like, yeah. So you're gonna collect everything that is green. Yeah, these colors are dope. So you're gonna collect every color that is green, and you'll be able to walk on this orange thing. So this is just to show you this is like where our game is, right? So we have this. This is what we have so far. Maybe you can also have like the game state here on the side to show you to update you about everything, right? So outside the container here, I'm gonna have maybe game state, and then inside the game state I'm gonna have maybe like h3, say moves remaining, maybe have 12 moves remaining. Just gonna zoom this, your score, because also the score is 1200. And what else here? What can we update you on? You have these moves remaining, you have four. What else do you have? Also, yeah, also number of food you need to collect, food remaining. Yes, let me put like this. Let the score needs, maybe let me make it like h2. Okay, we can't see it. I'm gonna make it game state. I'm gonna make it position absolute. I can move it up, up, I don't know, 190. Still not okay. I'm gonna put it on the same line as this. uh yeah, I think this is okay. What I need, normally I would use a Google font just to make our fonts look nice, right? So I'm just gonna import it here, import, and in the we can have something like select everything. Let me say select thing, padding is 0, margin 0, font family is going to be this one, print and serif. So yeah, it kind of looks okay. Maybe I might need to change the colors. Let me move to something like a, let me make it black. Yeah, okay, sharp. And also the font weight off. By 400. What? I don't know what. You know what? I'll stick to this. I'll stick to this. Okay, so far it seems like we have our UI, right? So we assume this is the player, and then when you click on your computer, you have the arrows like up, down, left, and right. So the player will play using those keys. You can go up, right, down, left only, and the other keys won't work. That's basically it for our UI now. For now, I believe we should be able to start with our code. Okay, so this is what we have so far, right? And so it means we can go back, we can go into our JavaScript and start to do some stuff, right? So we're gonna have the array which represent our game, right? So we're gonna have, okay, before we actually talk about the array, we're gonna have game objects. The game object would have, we're gonna have a player, and a player is gonna be represented by 1. We're gonna have a tile represented by 0, and we're gonna have food represented by -1. So in the array, we're gonna have a 2D array which contains either -1, 0, and 1 to represent our game objects, right? Because if you look at this is 2D array, right? And then so let's create our game array here, and we can leave it like this as an empty array. So we need to create a function which populates our array with all their values, right? And then one thing I need to mention again is the player will always start at the same position. The same position that the player has to go back to after collecting the food. So after collecting the food, you need to go back to your starting position and to win the game, right? So here is our starting position constant starting row. You're gonna start at the starting row is supposed to be the starting row is gonna be 7. Starting column is gonna be 0. So we have these, and then also we need to specify the number of food that we're going to place across the game, right? Number of food at the start of the game, right? Of the game constant. We're gonna say, not actually, let me say constant, because we're gonna change this value across the game. So this is just the remaining, actually, yeah, let me call it remaining food. You can give it any sort of value, but then now for now I'm just gonna give it 10, right? And then also we're going to have score, right? Remember, we have score, we have moves, and we have food remaining. So score, okay, I can also do it like, but then normally when you use this conversion is when you're making a value that is not changeable. So these ones we can change them: remaining food and score. Score, obviously when you start at 0, and moves, we're gonna give you I don't know, you also, these values can be changed, right? So we're gonna start, so you're gonna have to collect 10 food items, and then at the start you're gonna have 0 score, and then you're gonna have 40 moves to collect the food and go back to your starting position. So far this might confuse you because you haven't really seen what these numbers actually do, but in a minute you're gonna see. So now let's create a function that will initiate our array, or that will fill our array with all the values that we need. So I'm gonna call it initialize game. We're not going to pass anything because these are state values, these are global state values, right? So how do we initialize the game? I'm going to go like this and use let's start with row starts at 0 while row is less than okay, we also need, we know 1 2 3 4 7 wait 1 2 3, so it's 8. So since we are starting at 0, we can have I don't know if we should have the value here. Okay, game size, we're gonna have constant rows which is 8, constant columns which is also 8. So here we're gonna say rows while it's less than 8 and row plus plus, and we're gonna have another array here which is call and call less than calls and call plus plus. Remember, we are trying to fill this array, we're trying to make it a 2D array. So we're going to create another sub array here, sub array, and give it an empty value. So we're going to fill this sub array with values push at the start of it. So now we're just going to push tiles. We're going to push tiles into it. We're going to place the player and the food afterward, right? So now we're only pushing the tile into our game, and then after filling our sub array, we're going to push this sub array into our game array. Push sub array. So this is basically, save this. So this is basically the representation of our game. But then remember, we still don't have okay, let me not say 0 here, say this is a tile. So now we have the game, but then the game now is only filled with tiles. So we need to place food, we need to place the food and the player, right? And then we need to place this food randomly at the random positions, right? So every time the game plays or the game starts, we're going to randomly place those food, right? So we said the remaining food is 10. So at the start of the game, we're gonna place random food at the random positions, right? So now let's place the game. The game, we said, is always gonna start at these positions. Okay, so now we have these two array, right? So I can place the game, I can place the player now. I can do this game array, our starting row, and then our starting column is gonna be equals to player, right? Okay, funny thing is, here is the thing. Let me actually show you how our game actually looks, right? I can try to grab Let me actually do here DOM elements. So here is our game. We have selector. We know it by the ID game. So what I'm gonna do here is go into our game div and remove everything. Actually, let me just do this. So now we have an empty div here. I'm gonna fill it with using JavaScript. So let me fill it. Render game. So I have a function called render game, or render an array, or render our array, right? So we're essentially going to use this. I'm gonna put it here. Remove this. Now we are no longer initiating anything. We're no longer initializing anything. All we do is we are placing our object, our game object, on the DOM, right? So what we're gonna do is we're gonna have this here. So at the game array, at this position, row, column, if at this position we have a player, we have to render the player, right? If at this position we have a tile, we have to render the tile. If we have food, we have to render the food, right? So how do we render this stuff? We essentially concatenate into our, we do game. Okay, what did I call that element? I called it game. Okay, we're gonna say game dot inner HTML and concatenate a div here. Can have a div. Let me close it. And then this div has a class of player equal sign here, right? And I can actually return, here because I know there's nothing to do afterward. And then I can copy down like this. When I have tile, I can print out tile. If I have food, I can print out food. So after this, I can essentially call the object called, the function called the render game. But however, if you remember, we've only placed our tiles in the player. So if we check now, we should not be able to see our tiles. Oh no, you're not seeing anything. Oh, because I didn't call this function. I can call it here, which is our run this. Okay, we have a problem. Game, what's the problem? Let me open this and see if I'm getting any errors. Okay, do I still have the error? No. But then I can't see anything. Nothing gets rendered on the screen. Okay, so seems like we have seems like we do have like an error here. You know what, let me try to console out the game array and see if it gets filled with all the right stuff. Console, oh, what is this now? Okay, before after the game. So no, there's a problem. Do you see that we actually, no, do you see the arrays inside this array are empty? They shouldn't be empty, so it means our columns are not doing what it's supposed to do. You see, oh god damn it, how did I, so it's supposed to be 8. So if I go back here, I should be able to see that this is our entire game state, right? But we still have a problem here because the game is not getting rendered, even though the array has values. Let me try to remove these returns. I don't know what's the problem really. Okay, I do have the player. Yo, if the player, render the player, if there's a tile, not tile, title, tile, damn it. Okay, so far we have this. This is weird. Oh, we need to break the game. Okay, after each column, we're gonna do inner HTML and concatenate a break line here. Let's go back here. Oh, boom, there we have it. There is our game. All right, so let me see. Let me go back into our CSS. The game's changed. Let me do some merging. Oh, 4 is a lot. 1. I don't know if it's possible to style the break line. Let me do this and select this. Find the BR here. Oh, damn it. I don't know, width 0 pixels. I don't know if this is possible because the space between this is the BR. Okay, so I think we're just gonna have to work with this for now. Let me remove this. We're gonna need to work with this. I can close this. Oh, but then this feels painful. Yo, what's this? How can I change? I don't know. Let me see. Let me try something, right? Let me try game and say this is a div and we have a class name by say break, right? And let me close the div here, right? I'm gonna go here. Let me save this. Okay, you know what, let's just leave it like this. So you know what, we're gonna leave it like this. So I don't know, seems odd. I think like let's try to work with this spacing. I think like the spacing is just too bad. I don't know, maybe if I do like border radius here and 30 pixels. Nah, there's a lot. Yeah, what about this? What about working with cycles? It looks okay. Okay, we'll just stick to this for now. We'll see how it goes. Okay, so now we have the game, we have the player. So now we need to place the tiles, right? We need to place the tiles. After placing the player, we need to place the tiles before we actually get to render the game. Here, place, not the tiles, the food, place the food. Why do I keep saying tiles? Okay, constant function here and say place food, and this function should place, okay, let me say let counter is equals to 0, and while, so we're gonna print out, we're gonna place the tiles until we have remaining food. Remaining food is basically the number of food we have at the start of the game. Sorry, at the start of the game. So we just render this place food, right? So we have 10. We know the value here is 10, and then we need to go into our game array and place at the X position or the column and the Y and place, we're going to place food, right? But then however we don't have this X and Y value, so we need to generate them, right? And remember, we said we're gonna place the food at random positions. So we can create X. Okay, let me just say row, and then we're gonna have math. We can do math flow here and do math again to randomize our values, and then we say we want up until 8, right? Between 0 and 8, and then we can do the same thing here. Sorry, and here is gonna be our column. So row and column. But then also again, another thing we need to look at before we place the food is if game array at that specific column, we don't want to put food on top of that player, right? It's not equals to player. If it's not equal to player, then we are allowed to place the food, and then we can use our counter here to increment, right? I don't know, let me place this function here and see if it's working. Go back here, boom. If I refresh, boom, do you see like we place 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8? Okay, 1 2 3 4. Seems like we're placing a lot of values. Wait, it should be how many? 10, or while it's equal to 10. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10. What? 1 2 3 4 6 7. Counter should be less, right? 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9. Oh no, there's a problem. Let me refresh again. I want to see 1 2 3 4 8 9 10. 1 2, we have 10 now. 1 2 3 4 7 8 9. We have 9. So the counter only increases. The counter only increases after we've placed the food. Oh, the other thing is we shouldn't also place food on top of the food, because it seems like when it's not 10, we must have placed food on top of food, and we cannot allow that to happen. So I need to have another condition, and it's the game is not equals to food, so it should always be 10. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10. Okay, cool. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10. So okay, cool, now everything seems to be working fine. We are able to place the food randomly on our screen. We have the tile, we have the player. So now let's see how do we actually move. Okay, now that's tricky. So we're only going to listen to key, what we call them, key events, right? So once you press a key, we're going to listen to an event, and then if those keys match the up, down, left, right keys, we should be able to move the player, right? So now we have rendered the game, we have placed the food, we have placed the tiles, we have placed the player. What we need to do is, actually I'm gonna keep writing the functions on top of this one. So what we need to do is to listen to a key down event, right? We're gonna do documents, so we're gonna listen to an event that happens on our DOM, and then we have a key down, right? And we can call a function here, take the event value here and do this. We can do e dot prevent, even though, yeah, okay. So let me console out E and open our inspect here and go to console. When I press up key, oh no, this should be cleared from here. If I'm on the game and I press the up key, you see a key event was fired. Let me clear this and do it again. Okay, if you look at this, every key has its own value. Okay, if you look at this one code here, it says arrow up. If I press arrow down, you should be able to see the key here is arrow down. The code is arrow down, right? So we can use these values to only perform some sort of action or move the game only when these keys are pressed. So if somebody presses, let me give you an example. I'm going to press 1. Okay, let me press 1. So I pressed 1, and then if you look at this, it says the code is digit 1, and we don't care about this. We only care about the arrow down, left, right, and down. So we can go into here and do some the e.code, right? And we have arrow up. We're gonna do something if the arrow up was pressed. We have arrow down, obviously. We also have arrow left. We also have arrow right. So these are the only keys that we are interested in. If these were not pressed, we're not going to move the player anywhere. So now I need us to write a function before we actually do anything in here. I want us to write a function that is going to move the player, right? We're gonna call this function obviously move player. So how do we move the player? We need to know where the player is, right? First, and then after we know where the player is, we also need to know where the person who's playing is trying to move the player to, right? So if, let me give you an example. If the player is here and I press up, I should be able to move to this position. So I need to know that the player is at this position and is moving to this position. So if you leave here, we're going to fill this position with a tile, and then we fill this position with what, with the player, right? So we need to know where you are and where you were, where you are and where you actually want to move, right? So move player should be able to do that. How do we know where you were? So we should be able to in here, before you move, we can say your old position row game array, and we're gonna say row, not row, not row. We're going to say your position. Okay, we need to have a way that we can keep track of your position. So let me actually have the value here. Let player position, oh no, let me remove the let player position x or row. At the start, we're gonna initially give it the values of your starting position, right? Starting position row, and let player position column to be your starting column, right? So this is where you are at the start of the game. And then now we need those alt position row equals to player position row constant alt position column has to be this. So we need to keep track of your moves, right? So also every time you move, we're gonna change these values so that we know where you are. Instead of, we can know where you are by traversing the array and find where you are, but then that's just a lot of work. So every time you move, we're going to change this value so we know where you are, instead of having to go through the array and finding your position, right? So this is where you are. So when you move, we're going to use these values and fill this position with the tile because you are leaving that position, right? So let's say you move up, right? So if you move up, if you are moving up, so which value changes? So if you are here and you're trying to move up, so if you are here and you're moving up, so it means we're gonna decrement our row. So if you're going up, because here is 0, this is row 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So if you're here, you are at a row number 7. And then if you're going up, it means you're going at row number 6. So it means we need to decrement our row position by 1. Now our row position by 1 is what? Is player here, right? So if you're moving up, we're gonna say player row, we are decrementing it, and player down, we are incrementing it. Go back here. If you're trying to move right or left, right? So this is our rows, and then this is our columns. So if you are here, so this is our column, and it's at, this is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if you're moving to right, it means we are incrementing our column, and then if you're moving left, we are decrementing it. Arrow right, we're gonna say player column, not row. Now we're gonna do this and copy this line and paste it here, and we are decrementing it. So if you're moving left, if you're moving to the left, it means you are decrementing your column position. So this is position 7 in terms of column. This is column number 7, and if you're moving this side, you're gonna say 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, right? Yeah. So now we know where you are, right? So we know where you are, and then we have decremented the position. Now we can move the player. All we need to do now is pass in the values here. So our move player need to know your old position, your old row, your old column, and your current one. Current row and current, or not necessarily current, let's say new row. This is your new row position, and this is your new column position. So okay, we need to do a few things, right? So we need to do a few things. So if game array, so now we are going into the array. So we are looking at the positions that you are trying to move into, right? So your new row here, new column. So if you are moving on top of a tile, we're gonna do certain things. And if you're moving on top of food, we're gonna do certain things. So we have 2 checks, right? So we have 2 checks that we need to do. When you're moving on top of a tile, we just go into wait, this doesn't matter. So what matters is the food. So if you're moving on top of the food, we need to place wait a minute, you know what, before we actually do any checks, let's actually just move the player here. I want to see something. We're just gonna go into game array and say new row and new column is called to player, right? And also game array, we saying old row, since this is what the player was, old column, we are going to old column where the player was, player new position, we're putting the player there. Where the player was, we're going to put a tile. However, we still need to call this function here, move player. So move player takes old row, which is old position, old column is this one, and it takes the player row, player what, player row, yes, it's this one, player column. Okay, you know what, before I even actually do anything, let me just leave it with the arrow up and come here and try to move up. It can't do anything. Okay, what's the position? Can't set properties of undefined, setting 0, player at number 9. Okay, I think this is, we are going out of bounds. Okay, let me just forget about now. I think the problem here is that we need to render the game again, because we want to update it. So if I go up, no, not in here, if I go up, ooh, okay, so it seems like it printed the game twice. So but then if you look here, the game, the player managed to move up, so it means every time we render the game, we need to clear whatever that was there, right? So if I do this, go back here, move up, see, move up, move up, move up. This is dope. So we can move up and move up, move up. And then when I try to move up again, do you see there's a sort of like an error we get? We're getting an exception. It means we're going out of bounds. So the area that we're going outside the arrays. Okay, here. Also, before we can move the player, I think we need to ensure that we are not going out of bounds, right? So how do we check that? Sorry. So we can say if, really not here, we're checking if, sorry, player position row, when you're subtracting it by 1, it's gonna be less than 0. So if we are subtracting the player's position row and then it goes to be less than 1, I mean less than 0, so it means this is out of position, and then we can simply return it here. So it means we also need to do the same thing here, because we know anything less than 1 is out of bounds. And also position, this is not, is it row? Yeah, +1. So when we add, so this is when we're moving down, so we are adding. So also when we are adding, we shouldn't be over the value, so we shouldn't be over the value that we have here, which is our rows. So our rows is 8. We should not be moving to a position where it's row number 9. We don't have row number 9 and number 8, because we are starting from position 0. So we shouldn't move to row number 8 or 9 or 10. We should only end up at row number 7, which is the last one. And also here we can do the same thing. Arrow left, you are moving to the left, which means we are subtracting the column like we are doing here. So we can copy this and place it here and say if row arrow left, we are moving to the left, and then we are going outside the array bounds. The array bounds, we are simply going to return. We're not going to do anything, so we are essentially not allowing the player to move forward. And then the same thing again here, we place this player column, player +1 should not be greater or even equals to false. So we have done the safe checking here, so we can simply place this function. Wait, I can simply call this function down here after we have done all the checks. Okay, let me go back here. Left, no, not left, right. So if I'm moving to left and I'm trying to go to left again, it doesn't move. I'm trying to move it up, it's moving up. Okay, I'm moving to the right, it's doing okay, doing okay. So okay, it's moving as it should, and you can see we are actually collecting the food, because remember, inside this function move player, we said we're gonna move the player to the new position, and where the player was, we're just simply going to put the tile, right? So if I refresh this and try to see, if I move to the right, and then that's where the food was, and if I move up, there's no longer food, there's actually, okay, cool. So you can see we are collecting the food. However, you need we need to update your score, and also when you're moving, we should update the score, we should update the moves that you have, and we also should update the remaining food that you have collected. So now, if now we can do some sort of if checks, right? We can do some ifing. So if I'm gonna copy this line here, paste it here, no, not the new one, the old one. Wait, oh, we can try to check, not old, damn it, new row. So now we are checking like where the player is trying to move to. So if the player is trying to move where there's food, so if the player is trying to move where there's food, we should decrement the remaining food. Sorry, so let me do this. Console out remaining food, right? So so I have moved this, damn it. So I have printed out 10 because that's the number of food we have to collect. This is the number of green circles that we have to collect. So if I move on top of the green one that is here, if I move on top of this one, this value should change. Oh, it's not changing. Wait a minute. Oh, it's not changing, but it means I'm only calling it twice. I have to call it in here. So if I come here, I collect, we have 9. If I move up, I should see 8 because I've collected another one. If I go up, I should see 7. Okay, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm left with 1. And if I collect this one, I have 0. So it means now I have collected every food that is available. So every time you collect food, you need to update the remaining food. We also need to decrement your moves. Remember the game has 40 moves, and then you must gain score every time you collect the food, and then you also must lose the score every time you move, right? So every move costs you some every move you make, we decrement the score, and every time you collect the food, we increment the score, right? And you should be able to finish the game before you no longer have any moves. So if you no longer have any moves, you lose the game. We still have a long way to go. Ooh-wee. Okay, so what do we need to do? We want to update you. Okay, so I'm gonna try to collect. Okay, let me go in here. ID here, I have the score. ID, no. I wanna do this. To span here, have the value, and ID is the score. Have span here. The ID is what moves remaining. Okay, just moves. And also here we're gonna have these food remaining. So here's just gonna be id food. So it means I can come in here and try to grab those values. So I have what? I have score, moves, and food. So I have score, and I can collect them. Okay, not this document. Damn it. So query selector, and by ID I have score, and I can duplicate this one down. Score, moves and score. Yeah, not score, food. Okay, so there is an error here for score and moves because we have already declared them here and say score remaining. Okay, game score. This is game score. Game moves. So we know. Okay, this is the values that we are represented on our DOM. So every time you move, every time we update the game, we should be able to, okay, run the game. Where should we update them? We can update them here. Update the game. We're gonna say game score, and text content is gonna be score. We have scored. Remember, game moves dot text content, we have score. Moves, we have moves, and we also have what do we also have here on our DOM that we need to food? We have food. Food.inner HTML is equals to remaining food. This is the number of remaining food, and we can go in here and remove these values here. If I save these and I save these, we should be able to see the values that we have. So I have food remaining is 10, moves I have is 40, and then the score obviously is 0 because when you start the game, you start at 0. If I collect this one, you see the food remaining is 9. The moves remaining hasn't changed, so it means we need to change the moves. So the moves wanna change unconditionally. So every time you move, we know Vela that we need to decrement their moves. So they are not decremented conditionally, just like the food here, because when you move on top of a food, then we need to decrement. So every time you move, we decrement your moves. 39. Okay, cool. 38. I've decremented the food too. Dope. So I have collected all the food, and in order to win the game, I need to return to the starting position. And yeah, I need to move to the starting position, and I should still have moves remaining. So I should have moves remaining. And I should have collected all the food, right, to win the game. And also we're gonna update the score every time you collect food. So every time you collect food, your score has to increment by 10. Let's see. Boom, it's working. 20. Okay. Okay. However, also every time you move, you need to lose the score. So this is unconditional. This is an unconditional thing, right? So every time you move, you're also gonna lose 5 points, and then every time, okay, let me make it 20 so you don't lose a lot. So when you lose 5 by moving, and you gain 20 by moving on top of the food. Okay, and so now we need to have a game, not a game, we need to have a function that checks game state, right? So this function should check if you are at the starting position and you have collected all the food and you still have moved. Actually, we should just check if the player has won the game or lost the game. So we're gonna have this function called check game state. Wow, that seems like hard. So these are the conditions. If you still have moves, so if moves are still greater than 0 and game array starting position, starting row, and starting column is equals to player. Okay, and remaining food is 0. So I hope you get the conditions. So you still have moves. You are at your starting position, the ones that when the game started you're at your starting position, and you have collected all the food. So you have collected all the food, you still have moves, and you are at the starting position. We are gonna assume that you have won. So I'm just gonna call so you are you're the winner, right? And if moves are less than 0 or less than 1, and you don't have moves and remaining food is greater than 0, obviously you've lost. Sorry, such a loser. Okay, so you don't have moves, and you still have a lot of food to collect. You have lost the game. Also, if let me take this condition here. So if you don't have any moves, but the remaining food is 0, right? So you don't have moves, the remaining food is 0. So it means you have collected all the food, but you don't have moves, and you are not at your starting position. You have lost the game, because we know you need to go, and then you are not at the starting position. You have also lost the game. So console log loser, right? So, and then what we're simply going to do, just to call this function every time the player moves. So every time the player moves, we need to update the state. So we look at where the player is, right? Every time you move, do we need to check before or after move? Okay, I think after. Okay, let me just leave the function there. Let's go again. Let me collect everything. Oh no. Still have moves. You are the winner. Do you see there was a console? You are the winner. Why? I've collected all the food and I still have moves, right? So I should not be. So we should remove the game and print out that you are the winner here on the score. I mean on the screen. So let me refresh this and try to lose the game. Let me try to lose the game. Such a loser. Okay, the game, okay, such a loser. So it means I have lost the game. So now I can also lose the game by what? How come? What's the other condition? I've collected all the food. You are the winner, and I can continue. You should say I'm a loser. Loser, because I have collected all the food, but I'm not at my starting position. So it seems like all our conditions work. So we need to we need to stop the game once these conditions are met, because if you are a loser, you cannot, if you've won the game, you are not necessarily supposed to continue. If you have lost, if you've won, okay, if you have lost or won the game should stop, right? So yeah, that's basically it. So I don't know, we need to remove the game and place something on top of that game. So I don't know, what we're gonna do is okay, let me print out this. I just want to do something. Div, we go once you win the game, we're gonna remove this div and add a new div. Say game results, let's call it results. And then here we're gonna say you have won. So you have won. P here we're gonna say your score is, and then we're gonna say do this id. Actually, you know what, let me just leave it. Okay, let me do it like this. Your score is 10 and remaining moves is 12. Okay, I can save this and take results and then go into here, and let me see, I can give this a background color of, I don't know what color. Help me with a color I can use. Let me see the colors at random. Think, okay, seems like cool. Padding 20, 20, and the color inside has to be white. Yes, you have won the game. So this is after the game has changed, after the game has after the game is over. You're gonna see this on the screen. We're gonna remove the game div and place the result div, right? Sorry. So all I need to do is I can cut this, return the game, and go into here. Sorry, so we're going to say, wait a minute, I can't cut it, I need to return this one. Wait a minute, what do I do? Oh, okay, I'm gonna have a container. Let me grab the container here. Where is it? Where is our thing here? Const container. Wow, I'm sure you are lost. Container is a class, right? So once the game is over, all we're going to do is, once the game is over, we're gonna say game.inner.html. We're gonna remove it, make it empty, and we're gonna go into container and say inner.html is equals to this string that I copied. Remember the string we copied? I think we need to use the template string here. Let me save this. Oh no, I thought it was gonna help me. Help me. Okay. So results, you have won. So this is when you have won the game, right? You have won, and your score is, when I use this and say score, and remaining moves is this. Save and copy then. Okay, there's a problem here. I can't set. Okay, that's the prop. That's the. I'll look at into it again. Copy this, paste it here, and also paste it here. So we have two conditions for losing. You have lost. You have lost, loser. You have, you're a loser. Here you're gonna have a, you're a loser. Okay, I'm kidding guys, you're not a loser. Okay, let me return this. Okay, great. And I think the other problem that I noticed was actually you need to gain a lot of score when you move, because I saw that we're 50. Let's say you gain 50. So yeah, that's it. Let's play. Collect. Oh, I keep printing out this stuff. I don't know where I got them. So on the game, collect. You've lost loser. Okay. Oh, I didn't do this in these conditions. Gotta remove the game because we no longer want to see it. Let's try again. Collect, 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 collect. I want to lose the game. You have lost. Loser, your score is 300 and remaining moves is 0. Okay. Let me win the game. Collect all the food. You have won. Your score is 360 and remaining moves is 12. I don't know if you feel like it, but we can also remove this. We can also remove this part here. Let me see in the HTML, what did I call that div? Is game state, and go into my, where is it, where we are dealing with the state, and document dot query selector, and this is our div. We call it, okay, game state, and it's a class, and we can go to where a game state dot inner HTML is equals to game. Yeah, all these two guys here have to be empty and empty. Okay, I think this is the last puzzle of this. Let me go up, collect, collect, collect. I wanna win. Go down. Yes, this is the end of the video guys. I hope you enjoyed it, but wait, I think I might need actually to go through with this whole thing again with you guys. So let's try to see what's going on. I can maximize these. So basically we have a HTML file where we have a game div where we rent our game, and then we also have the game state where we update you about the moves you have, the food that's remaining, and the score, right? And obviously we linked our HTML file with the JavaScript and CSS, right? And then the styling is the basic one. I think like the concern is in here. We've written over 150 lines. I don't know. So we have game objects. Every object on the game is represented by either a player, a tile, and food, right? And these are the state. So the player is 1, the tile is 0, the food is -1. And then the starting position of the player, starting position. The starting position of the player is always D, so it doesn't change. So we know the player will always start at this position. And then the game size, this is the number of rows and columns we have in our game. These are the values that we know we're going to change, right? The number of food, okay. State at the start of the game. State at the start of the game. So at the start of the game, you have 10 food that you need to collect. You have scores, your negative is 0. Moves, you have 40 moves. I think it's a lot. You can change this value, and the starting position of the player is this again. So this is the value that we're gonna use to move the player instead of changing this one, right? So we're gonna simply use these values to move the player. This is the array that we're going to use to represent our DOM, right? So this is our 2D array, and then this is where we are grabbing the values from our DOM. Okay, now starts the logic. So at the start of the game, you need to initialize it, right? So since we are dealing with a 2D array, we're going to initialize our array with an array inside. So we create an array, we fill it with tiles. After that array, we push it into our game array. So we have something like, this is our main array, right? Let me do this. This is our main array. After filling this array with tiles, we're gonna have an array with zeros, and we take this array and we put it in here. We do it again and again and again until we have 7 rows and 7 columns, right? After we've placed all the tiles, we then place the player, and we always know that the player starting position is this, so we just place the player. Now we place the food. After placing the food, so when we place the food, we ensure that we sorry, when we are placing the food, we ensure that the player does not get overridden. So when you're trying to place the food, you must ensure that the position where you are at is not the player and is also not the food, right? And we can also change this condition to something simpler, like if this is tile. So if this is tile, we can place the food. If it's not tile, we cannot place the food on top of food. We cannot place food on top of the player, and we increment until we have 10, because remaining food is 10 at the start of the game. So now this is a function we call after placing the food, render game. This is how we render the game. We update the player about the score, we update you, the player, and then we remove everything that's on the game div, and we paint the game again. So when we paint the game, we ensure that, okay, if where we are at is a player, place a div with the class name player, because the class player has a different color to tile to food. And we break and we do it again. And then here we basically have we have an event listener attached to our DOM or our document, which listens to a key down events, right? So every time there's a key down event, this function in here will, this callback here, this function here will fire, and we are only performing those actions. We are only performing these actions, up down moves, on certain conditions, if the player is not going outside the bounds. And if you're moving up, we are minusing or decrementing the row position. And if you're moving down, we are incrementing your row position, same as arrow left and right. And then after changing those values, we need to move you on the screen. So we have a function that will move you from where you were. So we say move player, and then it will take your old position and your current position. Your current position, okay, wait a minute. So you have your current position and your new position. Your old position, we're going to place the tile where you were as a player, and then where you're trying to move, we're going to place you there. And we also have a couple of conditions here. So if you are moving on top of food, we're going to decrement the number of food that is remaining, and we're gonna up your score by 50. And then we render the game again and we check the state. So basically checking the state is ensuring that you are not continuing while the conditions of the game have been met. So we check if you have won the game or lost the game. So if you have won the game, you're gonna see that you have won. If you have lost, you obviously gonna see that you have lost. And then at the start, we just call the function called initialize game. Wow, I hope you got it. Let me go back here and refresh the game and play it for the last time. And you can change some stuff. You can even have like some obstacles on the game that you cannot move on top of, right? So that the game gets a bit trickier. and you have won. Your score is 340 and remaining moves is 8, so I've won the game. That's it. I hope you enjoyed this, and please don't forget to subscribe, leave a comment, or if you have something, if you have like a question and then you don't understand certain part, I'll help by explaining. And also you can check out this code. I'm gonna put it on GitHub. You can go through this code on your own. So yeah, I hope you have enjoyed this, and this is the end of this tutorial. Thank you for watching. See you next time.